Welcome everyone to our first community call this year. I think this is our first for 2021. But I think this is the third time that we're doing the community call overall. And I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces and names. So that's really great. Is there anyone here who is attending the community call for the first time? So feel free to type in the chat. Hey, so John, Radel, hey, so many people attending for the first time. Great, welcome, welcome, welcome. So, because there are a lot of first timers, so to say, in this call, so maybe it might be helpful to have some background on who's with us today. So here with us are, of course, some Tribe 29 members. There are also Checkmk partners with us here, and a lot are from our general user group, including our most active community members in the forum. So you might be seeing some people you have only seen the usernames of them in the forum. So yeah, it's nice to see everyone, right? So now I am curious about something. Maybe Martin is also curious about this one. So our schedule is always European time zone friendly. So I was wondering if there's anyone who's with us today that is located outside Europe. I'm curious if there's anyone. Hey, someone's from the US. New Zealand, look at that. Isn't it late there? Great. A lot of people from the US. Great. Awesome. Awesome. I hope it's not too early for you all. Yeah, that's great. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. So now before I pass on to Martin, so I just want to give some logistics information. So this call will be recorded as usual and streamed live on the Checkmk YouTube channel. So if you're not comfortable with having your face recorded on the video, so feel free to turn off your video. So, and also rename yourself if you're not comfortable to have your name seen. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to write them in the chat and we will go through them and hopefully we can address them. And please keep your mic muted while you're not speaking. And we will have an open mic session after Martin's presentation. So rest assured that you can speak and you can freely talk later, right? So in the interest of time, we will have to screen the questions a bit, especially because we have a very huge topic today. We are going to talk about a lot of things, about new things about Checkmk 2.0. So we might have to skip your questions that are too specific to your configuration or like it's something that's too big to discuss. So, but otherwise please feel free to post them in the forum and we can continue the discussion there. With those stuff said, I think we're ready. I think now it's time to hand over the mic to Martin.
Okay. Can you hear me properly?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then welcome also from my side and welcome to the community call. I'll be introducing Checkmk 2.0. I'm Martin and I brought a couple of slides. I will also provide a little bit of insight into Checkmk 2.0. I guess probably quite a lot of you have already taken a look into it, so might be some parts are familiar, but I will also go into a little bit of parts which might be not so familiar. And I will also provide some further information so that you can get started with Checkmk 2.0 as well. So I'm gonna move over to share my screen. So you should be seeing this, hopefully. Okay, you have to confirm because I can't see any person anymore.
Right, yeah, we can see it.
Okay, excellent. So what are my highlights for Checkmk 2.0? I think the biggest thing for me at least is that you build a new way how you can experience Checkmk. And for me, it feels now much more intuitive and easier to use it. It's also more fun to work with it. And I'm able to get things done faster. Another big highlight for me is everything what we did around automating and extending Checkmk. So there's a new REST API, there's a new Check API, and there are actually a couple of other APIs as well, which you can now use to work with Checkmk. Kubernetes is one of the major topics in IT. And I think one of the standards for monitoring Kubernetes is Prometheus. Therefore, we introduced an integration already in one of the feature packs in Checkmk 1.6. And this integration matured now over time, and I think it's a great way for you to monitor Kubernetes with Checkmk. Another integration which we built was integration to NTOP, so that you can now monitor network flows. I think it's a great addition to the infrastructure monitoring capabilities of Checkmk, and it was also really fun to work with the guys from NTOP. And yeah, we also did a lot of things under the hood to speed up the monitoring, to increase the performance of Checkmk in various dimensions, so that you also are able to do more with less. I'm going to jump now into the first topic. That's basically everything which we did around improving the Checkmk user experience. We built a more intuitive navigation with a powerful search. Yeah. I would just jump over these things because I think best is I would just explain them when I jump into the product, then we take a look at that, and then it's much easier to understand what actually happened. But just to provide an overview, there's new navigation with the powerful search. We focused that you can get things done quickly, and there were always context-sensitive menus or buttons in Checkmk, but now we actually built them into context-sensitive menus, that it feels much more consistent when you start working with them. We got a lot of feedback around the views. When we first introduced in Checkmk 1.5 the new modern theme in 1.6, we reworked it. And a lot of the feedback which we got was that the content was too far spread, that you couldn't get all the stuff that you wanted to see as you had in the classic view. So we improved the views again so that it's now comprehensive, yet easy to understand. And filters, we worked that the filters are now much easier to use. We have already always had filters for views. We added also filters for dashboards so that you can also work with them in that area and have a consistent experience across filters for views and dashboards. Beyond what we actually did there, we also improved a lot of how you can work with metrics in Checkmk. And I think one of the nicest additions in the Checkmk Raw edition is that you now have normal PNP for Nagios, which was used for the graphing, but now you have the HTML5 graphing from the Checkmk Enterprise edition. In the Checkmk Raw edition, you can now actually integrate Grafana with Checkmk Raw so that you can visualize all the metrics from Checkmk and Grafana, and that now also works in the Checkmk Raw edition for something which we only had in the Enterprise edition. But with the change of the graphing, we were now also able to do that in the Raw edition. The other thing, which actually is a feature which we already built in 1.6, kind of as a preview, but had a couple of disadvantages that a lot of dependencies were necessary. It was quite a heavy package which you had to install to be able to use this forecasting of metrics. And now we kind of improved the usability of it, but also we built it into Checkmk. Still a lot of things which we can do there, but now actually everyone can use it without having to install anything, and it's basically natively built in Checkmk. The entire dashboarding was basically improved. New features were added to the dashboarding. We have now more visualization options, how to visualize metrics. It's simpler to add these visualization options. We worked a lot of how to make it as easy as possible and how to customize your dashboards in a way which is very intuitive. And labels were a big thing. Got a lot of good feedback from you, from the community, and therefore we worked continuously on the labels and now added a lot of things around auto-discovering labels. For example, around a lot of hardware, we used the SMP info table to discover the labels, to also basically label devices. Is it a switch? Is it a router? Whatever. And also we extended the use of labels so that you can, for example, now use labels in notification rules. So this is now how Checkmk looks like, at least if you have the Enterprise Edition, because this dashboard you can only get in the Enterprise Edition. And before I basically show you any screenshot, let's go directly into it. So can you see this Checkmk login screen?
Yes, we can.
Great. Let me first drink of water. So I have a very simple slide. It's based on the newest patch release, which I think was released yesterday or today. Not entirely sure. And it's a very simple site. And as you can see, I basically built that today and added a couple of things for it today. And I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. And let me quickly, I wrote some notes so that I'm not only blabbering all the time. Okay. So this is the new main dashboard. As said, that's only in the Checkmk Enterprise Edition. And it has a lot of things which you might be familiar. What we used to have are the globes in here. Now we replaced the globes with something more consistent looking. You can still see your host statistics, but now you can also see basically your history of host problems over time to understand a little bit how is your infrastructure developing over time. You know, how are the problems developing on the host side, but also on the server side. How many problems actually do you have on your server side in total of your all problems? And a very neat feature, I think, are basically these host maps now. You can directly see, okay, is there a host down here? The down host obviously is down. There's one host which has a service and warning state. And then you can directly see, okay, in one view, okay, how is it going? The scales, if you have more hosts, you can actually see more hosts in there, obviously. And you can see, okay, which of my hosts is actually causing a lot of alerts. Here, my Linux Server 5 always has problems with the zone temperature. That comes actually via Zoom. Anytime I have Zoom running, my temperature on my laptop explodes. We have a couple of other dashboards as well. The problem dashboard is not gone. It's here. It's as before, and in the raw edition, this is the standard dashboard that you will start with. And that's as always. We have the Checkmk dashboard. That's also nothing new, but now it's much easier accessible to actually see the health of your Checkmk. Here, obviously, you might see I have 5 hosts which are completely the same. It's actually always my laptop. And I do have a couple of sites running, or actually not running. But these are basically 3 dashboards which are coming now with Checkmk. You can easily switch between them here. You can actually also set one of them as your favorite dashboard. I think here set a start URL is one of the features. If you prefer to always start with the problem dashboard, you can set this as the start URL. Then you will always start jumping into that. Depends very much what you like. So we kind of made sure that however you want to use Checkmk, you can use it. Yeah. If you start looking left here, this looks obviously very different. Yeah. And previously we had the sidebar, which contained everything from monitoring views, status data from the technical overview, configuration options, and was very messy. Yeah. And we basically simplified that. And the monitor menu, it opens a mega menu now. This is what we had in the views before. It has a quick search, which you can use as you used the quick search before. You can, for example, just search for a host, then go into the host, take a look at it. And here you can already see the context-sensitive menus. Before, we always had this random number of buttons. Nobody knew why I see exactly these 3, 4 buttons. There was quite a clever logic behind it, but it was very inconsistent. That's why it was very confusing very often. That's why we also changed it now. You can basically do actions, commands on your hosts in here. There are a couple of buttons which are always there for you to see. These are the ones which we said are the most prominent ones, most often used. You can collapse them with this button if you at some point know what these are. and uncollapse them again. The customization menu was actually is everything that you can actually customize to Checkmk. Here you can see one of these other features which is implemented, the show less, show more. So if you click show more, you can actually see a little bit more things. You can set this in your user settings. You can enforce if you always want to see more, if you always want to see less, if you want your users who are using Checkmk, if they always see less. So there are a lot of granular settings how to modify that. The setup menu, that's formerly Varto. We tried to get rid of names which are very particular to Checkmk, even though it's, I think, quite nice to have like names which we as the Checkmk community know, but whenever anyone who has never used Checkmk comes to it and sees Varto, everyone was like, what does it mean? And so we kind of got rid of that and renamed it into setup. We reorganized it a little bit. For example, the rules are now reorganized. There's the search feature in here, which is, I think, much more powerful now. Before, there was always the rule search, which is still in here if you want to search rules as before. But I recommend trying out this quick search for setup. And you can just type things in. If you're wondering, I'm not sure. I think that's why we actually now have Redis also running in Checkmk, because that was used for that. But don't ask me, I'm not a developer. But here you can actually see the hosts now as well. You don't only see the root, but you also see all the hosts which have, for example, Linux now in here. You can directly go there to them, edit them. You can go to all, you can see all the roots which have, for example, Linux inside. And from that, you can navigate and reach your goals much quicker. For example, if you want to edit that host, you can just click it, and then you're at the edit area of that host. As I mentioned before, we actually have built new filters in there. And one of the filters are for the dashboards. And I'm want to quickly show what actually happens. You can actually build filters in here. And before we had this very big filter coming up, which was very hard to use. Now it's a little bit easier to use. You can just add a filter, say, I want to filter for host name. And I only want to see in this dashboard all Linux, every host which contains Linux. I can apply it, and then I only see the hosts which have that. And I can adapt the filter as I want. And imagine if you have, for example, your Oracle admins, your Linux admins, your Windows admins, and you want to build dashboards for them. Now you can do that quite easily. You don't have to complicatedly clone dashboards and stuff. You can just set the right filter, and that makes it very easy for you to work with dashboards. We also worked on the dashboarding. I'm going to just quickly show how it actually looks like in here. That's how you can now actually customize dashboards. Kind of makes more sense how you can do that. If you scroll here, then it changes. If you move here, then it changes. You can remove them just like that, and so on. You can add new dashboards. And I prepared actually a dashboard to show you how that can look like, for example, with some of the new dashboards in there. I hope that's the right one. Yes. So here is a custom dashboard. I just built something very simple, which shows a little bit of the power of the new dashboards. Here we have a lot of, we have a larger monitoring. It's actually our productive monitoring. I hope our admin will not kill me that I'm showing it, but I made sure that nothing confidential can be seen here. You can see, for example, okay, which of our, this one, for example, will, is one of these new multi-metric dashlets, how I call them. You can see, okay, is there an outlier in here? Which of my, for example, web servers has a high CPU load? And I can see what is the average, what is the median and stuff. I can also have a different visualization options with these bar charts to see, okay, among all my web servers, these are all our web servers, where do we have actually almost full file system space? And I can see, okay, this one crashed to checkmk.com. Might be that a lot of people sending in crash reports, hopefully not. but there are a lot of different visualization options now available. And I think I have a couple of others one as well here. I built them for taking actually some screenshots. I think they still show what is possible. You can just have these gauges, which you can configure so that if you just want to monitor, my use case is we have our website. I want to make sure that on our website, because I'm responsible for that, that we don't have a problem with CPU load on that, no problems with any of the base metrics, but also that we don't have any problems with latency when I do with the HTTP check, which we have running on it. Is there any too high latency or not? Yeah, and yeah, just a couple of visualization options for individual metrics. The other thing which we have is these forecast graphs. I just want to quickly show how you can actually get there. Let me go back to this is one of the hosts. Let's quickly go into that so you can't see too much. If you, for example, want to forecast used file system space, yeah, how do you actually get there without having to read the documentation? And it's a little bit hidden. You have to go for a service into the respective service metrics. Then you can see, okay, used file system space, and there you can create actually new forecast graph. I already built one, so this one it is, and then you can forecast into the future a little bit. You can modify it as you want. Wrong button, edit model. You can change what kind of history it considers, how much you want to forecast into the future, and you can play around with that. For example, if you want to know, okay, where will this probably end up? Considering the last, what is happening in the last, it might actually end up there in the next couple of months. Yeah. That's the entire idea behind the forecast graphs. You can use that for forecast, for capacity management, but I think the options are limitless. You can't use it yet for monitoring, so it will not create any alarms yet. If you want to have alarms based on predictive monitoring, use the predictive monitoring features of Checkmk. That's all for now for the new user interface. Going back a little bit to my presentation here.
Martin, would you like to address some questions about the UX right now?
Sure, of
So
course.
we can
If
be
I
on
can,
topic,
fortunately, we also have Marcel Schulte here, who is much more knowledgeable about Checkmk than I am. So I hope he is also on and can help me out in case.
Right,
Just before we jump into questions, we will do a special UX session at some point. Matthias will be doing that. Matthias, the founder of Checkmk. Stay tuned for that. Check out our forum. There will be a notification or event post there as soon as you know when it is. We have built a new studio with a really nice recording studio, and that it will look quite nice. And any questions, please? Yeah.
right. So VT asked, what are the differences between the enterprise and the raw edition for the initial dashboard?
I don't have a raw edition running up right now, but I can try to show it. Like the first thing is you don't have this dashboard. You only have this dashboard and this dashboard. If you look at the dashlets, so if you, for example, want to customize this dashboard, here a lot of these are not available. So the metric, like the scatter plot, the bar plot, the gauge, the single metric are not available. The site overview is not available. The alert statistics is, I'm not sure which of these are available. Some of them are, some of them are not. And the custom graphs, combined graphs, and single metric graphs are also not available, I think. The performance graph, however, is available.
Let's see. Can you save it with the filter as a new dashboard?
I actually tried that before. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, you can definitely save it. So, I mean, what happens is that what happens in the back is that here, if you do this, the only thing which changes, if you look into the URL here, you can actually see how the URL changed and that it's in here. And I think you can save this as a new view or new dashboard. If Master Schulte is here, he might actually be able to help me on that, if you can actually save it like this, or how you would actually save it.
The easiest way is to use the bookmark snap-in at the right in the sidebar. Just click Add Bookmark. No, it's already available below the technical overview.
Ah, there. So we have this filter set, Add Bookmark, like this.
Yes, that's it. You can edit your bookmarks. You can make your bookmarks public to other users, and the bookmarks are always saved with exactly the same URL you're just seeing in the main frame. So I don't know if it is possible to just create a new dashboard using those applied filters either, because I just didn't test it.
Same here, but yeah. Thanks, Marcellus.
You're welcome. This time.
Okay, Ricardo has a question. So are those gauges you showed in one of your dashboard be applied to BI aggregation? For all the nodes we have in BI are making my BI not 100% green.
So you can set the gauges on metrics. If your BI aggregation, I mean, you can monitor your BI aggregation as a service. I have no idea if the BI aggregation then puts out a metric. I think it doesn't. So it might not be possible.
All right, I think that's all we have for now about UX.
But I know that we are working on dashlets for server states and host states, so that you can actually create just a what we have in here, that instead of a metric, we show the server state or the host state. That's something we are working on, will come some point this year, hopefully. Can't promise anything, but I know it's on the roadmap.
Okay, maybe one last for now. So Dan is asking, can you modify the colors?
Which colors?
Let's see if he can clarify. He added that some color combinations are hard to see.
We want to have a black state color instead of red for critical.
Yeah, you could. If you modify the source code of Checkmk of this style sheets, yes. But I think like that's a customization which is very individual to you. Yeah. So if you want to do it, I mean, how I would do it, I would just go to the respective CSS file and change it in there.
Oh, he added when hovering your mouse over the graph icon.
Over this one?
Yeah, the graph color is hard to see. For service checks.
I don't think you can edit them. Not easily.
And those shown graphs, when you hover the mouse over the graph icon, are just thumbnails of the graphs you will see when you click on the icon. So I don't think that this is really an issue.
Okay.
Okay, he wanted to attach a screenshot so that he can show, but because yours is showing differently, so it might be the difference between CRE and enterprise.
Might be. I mean, best post that in the forum. I'm reading the forum, and Pei is also reading the forum. And in the forum, we can take a look at it. And it might be a bug. It might be something, because I mean, if it's really bad to read, then we can obviously change that, because then it will be bad to read for everyone. So best just post it in the forum, and then we can take a look at it. Okay, I mean, we can go back to questions later on anyway. Moving on, as said, one of the big things is obviously automating, extending Checkmk. And we have the new REST API. Yeah? And REST, basically, that's representational state transfer, and describes an architecture for the exchange of data on distributed systems, for example, web servers. And it follows certain principles which have been established as best practice, like client-server model, stateless communication, and a uniform interface, which makes it actually much more fun and easy to use for users, for me as well. And that's why we build it. It's based on HTTP, so you can use JSON as transport format as well. It's formalized with OpenAPI 3.x. What does that mean? Why is that cool? Yeah, I think one of the main things is that this is an API description format, especially for REST APIs, and that allows for auto-generated, always up-to-date documentation. I think that's probably the most helpful thing, because if you want to automate your monitoring, you need a documentation to know what you can actually do. And the next thing is also some very specific thing, which I also had to read into. It complies with level 3 of Richardson's maturity model. And there are basically 4 levels, 0 to 3 of this model. And you use them to assess the maturity of or how much REST an API actually contains. And basically, we went all the way. And that, for example, means that the API communicates any possible next actions when you send a request, and the resources to be addressed, so that, for example, the client can discover the available functionality itself. It has more functionality than the existing web API, except rule sets. That's the one thing which we couldn't make into Checkmk 2.0 because it's also quite complicated. But what is actually added, so you can set downtimes now via the API, you can acknowledge problems, you can manage time periods, you can manage the business intelligence. There's a lot of things around agents. And as said, you can't use rule sets.
And besides configuration endpoints, we now support getting status data by using the REST API. So you can get host and service information directly from active monitoring, not only configuring.
Then there's also a new Check API, and basically, besides improving the automation of Checkmk, we also worked on supporting you when it comes to extending Checkmk. And among these new APIs, the Check API helps you to develop plugins much easier. The nice thing is with that comes also now a up-to-date, updated documentation, which describes how to actually do it. There is a documentation inside Checkmk on the features of the API. and we will provide a lot of new resources or more resources on that area as well. Also, there are a couple of plugin APIs added, which we didn't communicate too loudly. So the Agent Bakery has now a plugin API, and the dynamic configuration also has a plugin API. And you can also use that now to work with Checkmk and extend Checkmk. So how does it look like? And yeah, I'm going to show a very simple example, and it's very basic. Don't expect too much, but it shows basically how to work with it and goes only into. It's just an example, a demonstration of how, in general, you can work with it. And there's a lot of things which can be done, and I did the very simplest thing is adding a host to the monitoring. And obviously, the most important thing which we start is, where do you actually find the documentation? You go to help, and then you find in here REST API documentation. And then this is the auto-generated documentation which you can use. Let's hope that it loads. There it is. And it describes a little bit how you can work with it. And here on the left side, you can actually see what are all the options you can use. And one of them is, for example, working with hosts, and, for example, creating a host. Here are all the parameters which you might have to work with, explanation of them. And what I like most is that you actually have code samples. Yeah, here's a Python code sample which you can use. And what I actually did is I just used this code sample. In production, I don't recommend using these things. I would recommend using a API wrapper. At some point, one will come by us. Probably in the meantime, someone from the community will probably already put something on GitHub, hopefully, which you can use as an API wrapper, as we had it for Checkmk 1.6. Theoretically, it should be quite easy to create one, but you need to be a developer to be able to work with that, or how to create that. So, but we have it on our plan that we at some point will also do one. We just didn't make that in time. So how do you actually do something now? Here you can see I use this as a starting point, and let's quickly show here. I have a couple of Python files, and let's just quickly look into one. That's this one here. To create and discover a host, you can see my password and username and so on. I'm using their automation username, but that's just a test site which I have. And what it does is basically in here, I'm creating inside my folder server Linux, I'm creating a host with this host name and this attribute. So pretty straightforward. I'm a very bad programmer, but even I can do it. I can understand how it works. And then what I'm doing after that is I'm discovering the services on this host. Let's just quickly execute that. Let's hope everything works. I get this as a response. So this is what I talked about. It provides you with a lot of links and stuff which you can use then to automate the entire. It provides you with information back. It gives you some helpful things, and actually you can go and directly look into how that looks like, how this host, for example, how that looks like, which attributes it has in your browser as well. And we can now quickly check, did it actually work? Did it actually happen? Let's go to our Checkmk monitoring side. Let's look into our hosts here. Into servers, Linux, that's where I put it. And you can see the host via API is created there. We can see that I also actually did a check configuration refresh. So I discovered the services on that. And now I don't want to manually trigger the activation. I can also do that via the API. And for that, I do have my little script called activate changes, which we can trigger. which is pretty straightforward. And it worked. The activation was started. And looking back into Checkmk, I'm going to quickly refresh that. Done. Let's look into our hosts. Here we have our host by API, the one which I created by the API. And you can see it's here, it's there, it's created, it's monitored. And that's how simple it is. And yeah. That was already the mini example around it. And let's quickly move on to the other topics. As said before, we improved the integration with Prometheus. What was the idea behind it? For us, it's basically simplicity meets flexibility. I struggled a lot with working with Prometheus because for me it's pretty complex because I'm not a developer. I really struggle writing prompt kill queries to do all these things. And so Checkmk abstracts a lot of the difficulties. So it, basically, if you integrate Prometheus into Checkmk to monitor your Kubernetes, a lot of the difficulties are basically not there anymore, at least not for me. I can just integrate it and then I have a monitoring of my Kubernetes. And fortunately, Prometheus comes with almost all enterprise Kubernetes distributions. So in OpenStack and Rancher, you very often has Prometheus already pre-installed and it's supported from them. So you can just connect the two of them. Prometheus is super flexible and Checkmk makes it very easy for you to actually monitor it. And so we integrated the most important Prometheus exporters. What you can also do is you can actually monitor any prompt kill query and by actually using thresholds for that. And a couple of things we added over the last couple of months as the integration was maturing is supporting HTTPS, global proxy, certificate verification, filtering namespaces. For example, I mean, there's like, you can have multiple namespaces in Kubernetes and you just want to monitor one of them, or you want to monitor only two or a couple of them, or you don't want to monitor one of them. And you can do all these things now, and we improved a lot of things around it to make it work quite smoothly now. Yeah. I'm not going to show anything around here because that's quite extensive. We did a couple of demos on the FOSDEM a couple of weeks ago. If you want to see them, go to these links, watch the videos by Sudhir. We have a Prometheus demo and we have a Kubernetes demo to watch. And yeah. The other integration which we added was the NTOP integration to monitor network flows. That's an enterprise edition only feature. So what do you use it for? If you want to get detailed insights into your network, you can do it by actually integrating the data from NTOP into Checkmk. So you can, for example, have traffic dashboards to see who are the top talkers in your network. You can see the alerts directly inside Checkmk and filter them. You can see the flow dashboards and filter them to analyze flows. And you can get each host, which is an NTOP and in Checkmk, you can get detailed network information on them. And here, I would love to go into an actually proper demo to show that, but unfortunately, there's a lot of sensitive information behind it, so I just can show you some screenshots. They already anonymized a lot of the information so that you can't trace it back. And this is how it looks like. So this is if you want to see all the flows in your network. So this is the network flow dashboard. You can filter them here in different dimensions. You can look you can find all the top talkers, on which application they're talking in here. This very much depends how well your NTOP is configured because we are just reading the information from NTOP. So that's a little bit dependent on that. You can dive deep into network alerts, you can filter here again. Also depends how you have configured your ntop, because basically we just read the information from ntop. And for all the hosts which are an ntop and in Checkmk, there's basically this view now with all these tabs. Yeah, where you can see detailed information for the respective host. And one of the views in there, or one of the tabs, is you can see which peers the host is actually talking to. That's already, I think, everything which I had for the ntop integration. Now going to the things which we did under the hood. So to speed up the monitoring, we reworked the Checkmk microcore helpers. It's a very it's a part very much into Checkmk, into the very deep architecture of Checkmk, and that's only in the Enterprise Edition. That's where we have the microcore, and the Raw Edition we still have the Nagios core. And in our measurements, what it ended up is that at the same performance, it consumes 4 times less memory. And we did it by splitting up the helpers. Before we had one helper which did all the things to do the checks, process them, waiting for the network I/O, and that's always that might have taken a long time. And we split it up, we reworked it. If you want to have more details on that, we actually have a presentation in our forum linked with all the details behind it. We did a lot of improvements on different use cases. So we talked with customers, with users to understand where do they have trouble with Checkmk performance-wise, and we fixed the performance issues on these ends. And among them is, for example, that if you have a lot of sites, we improve the performance there around config generation, for example. We improve the performance if you have a lot of hosts or a lot of folders. And across the setup, so for example, among rule sets, we improve the performance as well. It's very vague. If you want to have details, there's basically, I will provide some resources in the end where you can really dive deep into it. But the summary is we speeded up the monitoring, and hopefully you can feel that as well, because a good user experience also means that things can get done quickly. We have a lot of things which we plan for Checkmk 2.1 to do there as well, but performance is also an important aspect for us when it comes to user experience. And last but not least, there are obviously a lot of more new check plugins. I think now we have 1,922. Let me quickly look. I wrote it down somewhere. Yes, we have now 1,922 check plugins. Can see a couple of the new ones we added, some we extended. Yeah, that's something which we always do so that you can monitor everything without too much trouble. So this was only an overview. If you want more, I recommend that you go to our forum. That's we will also find this presentation after this community call with all the links. Take a look at our Checkmk 2.0 website. That's where we kind of put an overview with a lot of links. We have this presentation with a detailed list of every feature, the relevant web, the documentation behind it. We created a lot of blog entries which describe in more detail the individual features. Obviously, read the release notes, which are plenty, obviously. There's an update guide. So when you're updating, for example, from Checkmk 1.6 to 2.0, I really recommend reading it because it goes through what are the things you should consider. The Checkmk documentation already has all major features covered, hopefully. We are still working on it. We are at the moment also replacing or updating all chapters with a new user interface. It's quite a lot of work, and we're not a big team so it will take us some time until we get everything updated, but that's something that we are working on full focus on. And stay tuned for the next community call with Matthias. Date is still to be announced. If you want to update to Checkmk, I recommend get familiar with the new features, read the release notes, deal with all the incompatible changes. Don't jump major releases. If you see now Checkmk 2.0 and if you want to go there and you are at 1.4, install every major release. Don't skip major releases. Test the major updates before you apply them to production. One source of always which is a trouble is the local file system, which we have in Checkmk and OMD. Keep it clean because that always causes trouble. Yeah. Create a backup because you can't just go to Checkmk 2.0 and then go back, because we did obviously a lot of changes, and yeah, doing an update is a good idea always. If you want to understand how you can actually set up a staging environment for Checkmk, check out these links here. Marcellus, who also helped me out already here, has done a presentation on our last conference, giving a talk how you can actually set up your own Checkmk staging environment. That's it. That's the questions. Sorry. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot. I'm gonna stop sharing now to hopefully see some people sharing the videos as well. But hopefully we get a lot of questions now. That was it from my side, at least around what is new in Checkmk 2.0. Just a short overview. There's a lot more.
Right. So there is some question regarding NTOP. So Marcel already said that he's not sure, but maybe you have an idea, Martin. So for licensing, it's about licensing. So does NTOP code as one service for all the various data that it is providing per server or per destination, or more complex than that?
So I have to let me check if I can see the question here, because does NTOP the licensing is pretty simple. If you need NTOP, and NTOP license you have to get from NTOP. Probably you might already have it. Checkmk is as before. It doesn't increase the number of services. You just have to pay for the add-on. And the add-on, just contact our sales guys. They can provide you with the add-on. I think it's also pretty cheap. I'm not sure how much it is, but I thought it's something around 300 euros per year. Contact our sales guys. They know the price for that, but it's not expensive, I think, considering how much a laptop costs and stuff. Check it out.
Right, from Dennis. So where can I find guidelines to develop own check plugins compatible with 2.0?
Yes, so go to our documentation, and actually gonna share my screen again because I think that might be a little bit easier. So if you go to our docs.
Are you showing your browser? Because we see a document.
Ah, great. That's the wrong one. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
So you go to our docs, you can employ the search here, or you just go to implementing extensions and writing your own check plugins. And here, this is rather new. There are still a couple of sections which still need to be translated, I think, but take a look at that one. This explains how you can create a plugin with a new Checkmk 2.0 check API. If you want to migrate plugins, because we also changed from Checkmk 1.6 to Checkmk 2.0, we also changed from Python 2 to Python 3. At some point, it might make sense that you also migrate your plugins if you've developed own plugins. And for that, we have this blog post which goes into details how to actually migrate plugins. You don't have to do it because there's an auto migration happening, which is also explained how that works in here. But at some point, it will make sense that you do it.
Martin, could you get back to the documentation in your browser? And can you reshare it?
Yes, I can.
Great.
Just need to find my mouse. Sorry, there it is.
Okay, could you reopen the plugin writing your own check plugins? Yes. You see this little word below the title that's still a draft. So it has not been finished yet. So you will find many information in there already, but this is not completed yet.
Yes, so the German version is completed for now. There are still a couple of things missing.
Yeah,
If
okay.
you go to very bottom, then you will see that what are the things which we haven't done yet, if you can read German. And as soon as we have finished translating the last couple of pieces which are new in the German part, then we will also set that from draft to actually finalized. And there are still a couple of things which are not documented. For example, one of the things is how do you work with GUI extensions? How do you work with special agents, I think? How do you program them? But these things will not be done in the next couple of weeks. The status which you will see here, there will be a couple small changes, but there will be nothing major coming there in the next couple of weeks.
Right, so we have one question on the chat, but then Marcel already is addressing it. But then otherwise, for the rest, feel free to speak up, turn on your mic, or you can just also chat, type in your questions on the chat.
Yeah, this is Michael Frank speaking. Good afternoon. Thank you for this presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you, Marcel. So I have a question to the API, Martin. If I well understood, until now in 2.0, the creation of rule sets is not supported in the API. Is this correct?
Yes, it's not supported yet.
Are there any plannings to support this in the future?
Yes. So definitely in 2.1. I don't know if we can, if it will be in if there are any plans to at some point add it in a patch release, but I don't think so. I think in Checkmk 2.1 you will get it because it's quite an extensive addition.
Yeah, because we used this already in 1.5. So anyway, we need this to upgrade.
Yeah, for now, it will be a pain because you will have to use the web API that's still supported in 2.0. But in 2.1, then you will be able to use everything via the REST API. In 2.0, just use REST API and web API.
Okay, so web API remains in 2.0 and is the same as we had in 1.5 or 1.6. So okay,
exactly.
Then we are compatible. Then it's okay. Thank you very much.
So you can use both APIs in parallel.
Yeah, that's perfect.
It's
then
just
we can have a smooth migration.
Yes, it's just the web API is not developed on anymore, and it will get removed in 2.2 currently planned.
Okay, so as long as we have in 2.1 the rules, I'm okay with that.
Yes, that's 2.1 latest. So if I speak to the developers, they plan to release it before 2.1, but we don't know if this will happen.
Okay, that's good. So we have some time to prepare.
Dennis has a follow-up question. So he asked earlier something about check plugins. So he's clarifying if what is the right word, plugins or extensions? Oh, Marcel already answered. Great. So we have another one. What kind
Plugin.
of yeah. So
I
what
mean,
kind of
not everyone on YouTube can see that. So the chat in Zoom and stuff. So
right?
we probably repeat the questions and stuff if we have the answers.
Yeah, the right word is plugins. Extensions are MKPs. Right. So another question, what kind of online webinars are planned with respect to 2.0?
Faye, I think you know that better than me.
Right. Well, so we have the UX community call coming up, and where the date will be announced, and we're also planning to convert the current webinars that we have into 2.0 version. But then the final details, I don't know yet.
Yeah, we want to do some specific webinars for a couple of things, but we haven't asked the people who will do the webinars yet. So I don't want to promise anything because
But yes, but then if there is a demand, so you can knock them and tell that they can present and do the webinars, it will be really nice. It will be really helpful and we can make it happen. But then what we target is like basically what Martin discussed. Like we want to have webinars that like have a deep dive and those stuff. So let's see. Oh, Thomas said he's so shocked when he first logged in to Checkmk 2.0. It's so different. It's great. Change is nice. Greg is asking, is there anything that needs to be changed in Raw to use Grafana?
No, I don't think so. But Marcel can reply to that.
Right, yeah. Marcel.
I already did.
Yeah, but you have to say, you like people on YouTube can't see the chat.
You have to use 2 monitors.
Then I mean, Marcel's answer is yes. No, you don't have to change anything. You can just utilize the Grafana connector, and Marcel has pointed then to the documentation.
I'll just paste it on the YouTube chat just to be clear.
By the way, how do you like this new Checkmk 2.0 feeling? Like, I mean, obviously it's a shock. It's very different. It needs some time to get accustomed to it. But do you feel like that was something, a good path which we took, or how do you feel about it?
It looks great.
I think it's a step in the right direction. It wasn't that difficult to get used to it. We decided to, as one of your partners, we had a lot of very anxious customers that wanted to test a new version, and they started testing it, and well, they ended up going directly into production. So we got used to it quite quickly. So I think it's okay. It's definitely aired out. The quick search helps quite a bit. And what we noticed for the newer users, which we have quite a few of, the new naming is okay. I don't have to explain Vato anymore. I don't have to explain manual checks and how they fit into everything. They're still there. They have a different name. It's just more logical. So from my point of view, yes, I think it's definitely in the right direction. I hope my microphone wasn't on mute and I just spoke.
No, we heard you.
Good.
Just going to read a couple of the comments here. Michael likes it. Has also liked it. Guillaume says, like it, good step. Simon says, looks nice, colleagues love it. Stefan, it has a dark mode in default, it's fine. Whitey says, I like more the globe of the older version, but apart from that, seems really nice. I'm also a little bit sad that the globes are gone, but BAM says, for regular users and admins, I guess the new UX is easy to get along with, but most casual basic users might be horrified and then don't like it yet. Dennis, yeah, okay, that's different. Guillaume, now I'm glad the globe is dead. Long live the hexagon.
Yeah, I'll say what I posted already. Hi, this is Thomas. Yeah, it will take a lot of time to get used to it. You see, I've been working with Checkmk. The oldest version I have is 1.2.4 P5. Okay, that is obviously quite old, and that is a completely different world. And recently, I switched one of my 1.6 instances, which I keep on purpose on the classic interface, to the modern one. In 5 minutes, I had a call from the monitoring team. What the hell did I do and why did I break it? Well, so, and then I showed them screenshots from Checkmk 2.0 and they actually hung up. No, okay, that was a joke. But it's really okay. Change is great. I get it, but yeah, it'll take time to get used to it. I have to say that I can't say if the direction was right or not. I guess so, but time will tell.
Let's hope. Let us know. I mean, unfortunately, there's no path back. Yeah. But we like when there are specific pain points. Yeah. I mean, like for Checkmk 2.1, we will improve it further. And for Checkmk 2.1, we plan to really tackle a lot of the workflows. For example, the activate changes, the service discovery, and improve them. So Christian says, I definitely find the new user interface modern. I like it, but there's still potential, especially in the submenus. Yes. We had here another comment or question here from Rick. We use the ANAC mobile app, and we have to keep putting the CGI bin scripts back for each upgrade to Checkmk. Is there anything in the development in the near future that would keep us from adding the CGI scripts back in the future version or future versions? Robert says, make ANAC talk to the Checkmk API. Yes, that's obviously one of the ways how to solve it. Then I think Marcel replied, it's not up to us, it's up to the ANAC developers. And then also Marcel said, open it in mobile browsers, it should show the mobile interface. I don't know if you know, there is a mobile interface on Checkmk. So it doesn't, it kind of works. It's not great, but we try not to break it with every major release, but we're not really working on improving it at the moment. But let's see what happens in the future. And Dennis says, yeah, somehow it's not the same as the native app, cannot specify the feeling, yeah. Yeah, let's hope the ANAC developers just write to them. Maybe they will change it because so many of you start writing to them. They at some point might say, okay, let's work with it, yeah. But the CGI bins will highly likely not go back into Checkmk.
Someone from the YouTube chat is asking, is the documentation for SAML, I don't know if I pronounce it right, it's already available somewhere?
Yeah, in our internal wiki. It's not ready yet for sharing yet. So the documentation team has it on their backlog to write the documentation for that. So we put the dependency into Checkmk 2.0 that you can actually do it. But yeah, like I don't know when we will have this documentation out there. If you can wait, then wait. If it's really, really super urgent, just write me an email or write Faye an email, and you can be one of our beta testers.
So you can message me on the forum at PayPal. So feel free to just message there.
So I just shared my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
That's the mobile interface if it is called by a mobile device. So after logging in, you have those problems shown here. You can navigate those problems and so on. So we already have this mobile interface, but just no native mobile application showing this. I just wanted to show it to you because nobody believed it. And you can switch to the classical web user interface. So this is just the UI you know. That's all.
So Generosity says, loves the honeycomb graphs for host overview. The whole UI is very slick. Thanks very much. Mike says, is there a roadmap or plan for features currently only available in Enterprise Edition to be part of the community version? So the things which are available currently in the Enterprise Edition only will also be in the future only be available in the Enterprise Edition. The only thing which we really changed was now that the entire graphing, and which was one of the big things as a difference between the Enterprise Edition and the Raw Edition, is now also in the Raw Edition. But not with all the features, but with the major things which you might need. But if you look into it, like most of the things which we develop for both editions, and for us, it's you can do everything that you want to do with the Raw Edition. It's less work if you do it with the Enterprise Edition.
All right, I don't see any more questions. Okay, there's one.
Okay, is it possible to set up a new Checkmk 2 node that only shows view that is connected to Checkmk 1.6 that is in production? And one important thing, a lot of the things which you see in Checkmk 2.0, especially in the dashboard, you need the Checkmk 2.0 agent for that. Marcel can explain that a little bit more in detail. So take a look at you can do it like that. You basically have a Checkmk 2.0 instance and that you do distributed monitoring and then connect it to Checkmk 1.6. I think that's possible, but it will not have everything that you might want in there because some of the data is only available via the Checkmk 2.0 agents. And another question, when will RobotMK be available for 2.0? Let's see if the Robot2MK developer is in here.
Simon says, when it's finished.
It's done when it's done. I know that there's nothing with more focus for him at the moment than RobotMK. So he's working all the time on RobotMK. And yeah, I guess pretty soon. Yeah, if you want to see more about RobotMK on our conference, so in June or July, I don't know exactly, we will have our Checkmk conference, our yearly one. It's going to be virtual again, and we will have a tech session, 1.5 hours on RobotMK, where you have actually the developer of RobotMK showcasing it, and we will have one of our partners will showcase some examples how RobotMK is actually being used in production. And so that will be quite nice. YT has a question which I can only assume. So what are the difference if you install without root access? I guess that you might mean the agents, the Checkmk agents. Without root access, the agents will just not have all the information because they will only have the information which is supplied as non-root. That is something which you should consider if you do that. That's why we do not really recommend it. You can modify, you can work around. There's actually a how-to in the forum, how to actually do the agent without root, what you have to do to make that happen. Yeah.
But the server installation is impossible without root access at the server's operating system, because you just cannot install the package.
Okay, then, I mean, also from our side, thank you very much for attending it. Really happy to have so many of you here. It's really cool to see also the support we get from you, and also that like the positive spirit. And yeah, it was really cool to do that, and hopefully we see each other soon as well.
Cool. See you
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. By the way, Martin, maybe just a shout out for our friends from SysOps TV. They joined us. I'm not sure if they're still here.
Cool, yeah. Hey, maybe I drop in again in your next live stream. I know where you're hosting it.
I think they're doing one earlier, or I don't know if it's still live right now. Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.